Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, April 22nd, approximately 4 p.m. I'd like to call the Board of Water Commissioners meeting to order. This order of business will be to approve the minutes of March 24th and April 8th. Do I have a motion on March 24th?
I would say it's time for all moves to approve the minutes.
Moved in second to approve March 24th. Do I hear a second on April 8th?
Second. Okay.
Move second, so voted to approve April 8th meeting as well. First appointment for tonight is Kristen Berger. Good afternoon.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you. So we have some updates on the Main Street water main project. The 2-inch mill and pave work has begun. We met on April 8th, as you know, because the board's met since then, or that day. After that meeting, I provided some meeting notes with a markup of drawings with the paving limits. So, highlighted out, pave here, do this, some notes based on our discussion. So everyone's clear with what needs to be done, and I delivered a copy of those, a full-size set. So Mitch has a set, so he reference when he's out there. And everybody else got like a picture of markup. We had a check-in meeting on last Thursday, the 17th. So, just to touch base about the weather, any other issues, and things look promising. So at each day, the weather seems really close. So their plan was to do the milling yesterday, and then today, which they did. Tomorrow, they'll raise structures, and then Thursday, pave on the south side of the Jones River, down, where the school is, and then Friday will be for the
It was not perfect.
they're using the traffic management plan that we had used last year for the water main work and the trench repairs with diverting traffic down this way through the school property. So after, just a brief communication thing yesterday morning, that got resolved before they got through that portion that's up by Cancun that you can't use a detour around anyway. So that detour got in place, and everybody was back on board with what needed to be done. They haven't done a ramp closure yet. They didn't need to do that yesterday for the milling work. They were able to stagger it with having the 2 ramps there. But they do plan on using that Thursday morning. Paving. A couple things came up today once they did the mill work. There's the landing road apron is not very thick with the pavement, the existing pavement. So once they milled it, they could actually see the gravel. So there was only a couple inches of asphalt there. So it's yes, but no. So in the permit, they managed to sneak in anything that comes up within the road is you. Even if it's our pre-existing issue, you have to fix it. Yeah. So they're requiring an extra approximately 50 feet by 7 feet by 5 inches of pavement. So then they'll have a total of 7 inches. So I think that'll approximately be like $4,000 extra. So it's still within the contingency, but the contingency is getting really small. It's maybe 10,000 right now. So the other issue that popped up was there's a drain structure that was paved over also at the Landing Road. And again, a DOT issue, but since it's part of this project, they managed to get you, so fortunately it seems like it's just going to be replace a few courses and place a new frame and cover so it'll be accessible. It won't be paved over if they flush the road. So the highway department has a spare frame and cover to provide, and Mitch and the guys are going to do the courses to raise it tomorrow morning. Otherwise, that would be a $6,000 to $10,000 change order from CC. Knows they have to as well.
in hindsight, it does make sense to come across something like that, or come across
Yeah.
paving and it's that deviant from what it should be, that somebody's gotta pay for it, and the fact that we're doing the work, you know. Yeah, maybe at some point, you know, we could go to and see if we can get a transfer or capital fund, but you know, if we've got the money, we might as well spend it, do it right, and bring the structures up. It wasn't, you know, we didn't do it, but you know, we've got to repair it anyway.
We didn't do it, but we own it. So I-
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
That's pretty much it, yeah, and as long as there's still the budget
Yeah.
left in that ARPA funds, yeah, it's great to have a better end product that's gonna
Absolutely.
hold up better long term. So, and then once they're all done with all that, there'll be some punch list items to do, loam and seed repairs, so.
Some sidewalk work as well.
They're doing the sidewalk work as part of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Do they expect to be finished with the paving for Friday?
Not before Friday or?
By
on-
Friday.
Yeah, by Friday, it seems like it, yeah.
Because I hate to think of
Yeah.
Monday.
They-
There being anybody there Monday.
Today was supposed to be a bad weather day, so they.
Yeah, And they're trying to get this extra 5-inch repair between today and tomorrow. So if that's the case, and they've made it through all the milling, so nothing else should.
That's
no
where
other
you usually find the
surprises.
issues, right?
So it should, and I mean, if anything, they'll make it almost all the way where there will just be like another day, but I don't, that'll happen, because it's.
Okay.
Just no other way.
The fact that they can start it when they wanna start. And
Yeah, getting
go
the
through
full
the whole day,
day.
Yeah.
long
7 to
buses and
5.
everything, so
Yeah.
cooperation from the state and cooperation from the local police and fire was very important.
Very much so.
Thank you for staying on top of it.
Yes, welcome.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was good.
Mhm.
Bunch of different form. And fortunately, yeah, the highway department's been very helpful past 2 days with checking in, asking if they can help with just, making calls or to resolve some issues where Chris is away. So that's been, John Turner's been very helpful the past couple of days.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I hope anybody that's on Zoom is listening, that in fact, highway and the water department, that they're working hand in hand, you know.
That's me, pretty much usually do.
So that's it for the Main Street projects, unless you have any questions. Okay. Oh, the other thing, sorry, was the state had required CC and Lawrence Lynch to do zero out or ramp the transition points, for the milling, which they haven't done yesterday, so, DOT called them on it today. They should be doing that, so the rest of the day and tomorrow,
So there won't be
hopefully it's
bumps.
like that, yeah, there'll still be some bumps with the structures, once those get raised, but, at least the transition to the milling and out of the milling.
There still should be some vertical transition, as the new pavement meets the old pavement, just so that when they roll it, it cools and it becomes a smooth transition.
Yes, that's right, they'll have to.
Yeah.
So on, Thursday, before they do the paving, they do have to do a little bit extra milling to
Yeah.
get those extents.
Yeah.
So there will be some more of that, so that, like what you're talking about,
Yeah.
yeah. There will be that,
Yeah.
more vertical
Mhm.
edge for them to pave up to. So the next thing is the new well project. And that site walk with Mars Services did occur to show them the test wells,
Mhm.
the existing test wells. And the update from Kleinfelder was that they've gotten all their consultants under contract, so that's Mars Services and the surveyor. They're waiting to hear back from Mara Services on the schedule. They're hoping to mobilize for the pump test in the next week or two. The surveyor's ready to go, and they're just waiting on a crew to free up from another job. They have a tentative start date of Friday, but that could change depending on how their current job plans out, so maybe next week.
That would be good.
So they're gonna be there how long?
Not that long, because they're still, they should be able to fly some of it where it's not a full leaf cover yet. There's, the leaves are pretty small looking around out here. That was their hope, to be able to fly a bunch of it to get some of the survey done that way, which would help expedite it. So it's the exact time for field work. I wouldn't think it would need to be more than a week. They should have confirmation of the exact dates for survey tomorrow or Thursday. Once all that field work scheduled on the way, they're gonna shift their efforts to developing framework for the site exam and pump test proposal for Mass DEP. And begin preparing what they can with the data that they have. And we've also set up every other week check-in meetings with the team. So I propose we do those Monday afternoons. So some of those will line up so they're right before this meeting. Sometimes we might get off schedule at a certain point, but the other week is helpful just to have a remote meeting where
And the next day, you can give
30
us an
minutes.
absolute
Yeah.
up to date.
Yeah. Say over the next 2 weeks, here's what our plan is, what we're gonna get done. So keep everything moving, keep everybody informed. The other thing with that project is still tracking that one-stop community growth grant application. The grant application period is from May 5th through June 4th. And like we talked about at the last meeting, to have a viable application, we would need a development partner. And I don't know if Chris got a chance to talk to the town planner, thank you. Before he left, but we'll have a little bit of time next week to do that. And before the 5th, there's a window of opportunity if we have questions for the one-stop program people, they'll talk to you. Once the grant application, they can't talk to you at all. So that's still out there.
I thought that we weren't gonna be able to do it this cycle.
Well, it seemed like it was it wouldn't be quite as successful this cycle because we don't have 20.
I have your power cord.
And with just the contract time that we might not be able to comply with what they're looking for that.
Every battery I own has died today.
Anything went in for this.
I must have changed 3 different things on the walls.
Mark, mute, please.
Oops.
Thanks.
More of a learning experience, and the last time we talked to you about it wouldn't be vertical construction, would be ineligible. So it would be the well itself that would be constructed under a Chapter 30 project, and whatever else we could link with that. The site work, there'll be some, the road and access road to get in there that we could have as a separate.
How far is it from the?
Oh, I'm not sure what the distance is. It's a good ways though. So it'll be a decent amount of access road cost.
Yep.
That. And there's tree clearing work to be done. There might be some site work right around the well,
Just make the wells accessible to build a building.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But until such time as they've had a chance to do the survey and do the pump test so that we know exactly where the well's gonna be, you really can't start the vertical construction
Right.
for the well. And, you can't do the well, you
Yes,
can't
we're
do the
for the
building
well.
and can't do
Right.
the building until you know where the well's going.
Exactly, yeah. And given the schedule that we have, we won't be ready to even start the well for another year anyway, because of the permitting involved, the test well work and then the permitting work that's involved. So that's why the one-stop grant this year doesn't make as much sense.
But will we wind up though in the right place next year?
Yeah.
If it comes along again.
It's still worth talking about.
Yep.
I don't know if Chris actually got a chance to talk about last week, but I was under the impression that we weren't doing it this round, and that's what may have been his assumption. too,
Okay.
Based on our last conversation.
Yeah, it'd be worth just talking to her about because, you know,
Oh,
the
he
year
definitely-
goes.
I know he's definitely talked with her about
Okay.
it, I just don't know if it was after our last meeting,
Okay,
so.
yeah, well, the year goes by so fast,
It's-
you know, sometimes it takes some time to
Yeah.
get all the
all the
teams
pieces
lined
in
up.
order.
Exactly. Next on the list is the moratorium discussion update. We had our separate little subcommittee meeting on last Thursday, April 17th. I had given you guys 2 things for the packet. One was the handout with the graph, and one was the handout with this Q&A. Based on some of the questions that we knew were being thrown out there about the moratorium and, you know, give some more information with regards to some misinformation that I was hearing. So I'd like to just run through those with you.
Sure.
The first question was, you know, what is the real need for a new water supply and why is a water service moratorium necessary? Now, Mass DEP requires that public water suppliers be capable of supplying the max day demand with the largest source offline or out of service. If a public water supplier cannot meet this requirement and the largest source is out of service, the risk is the available supply will not keep up with demand and the system could run out of water, causing a water supply emergency and risking public health. For Kingston, this threshold is 2.484 million gallons per day. The maximum day demand for the Kingston Water Department has exceeded this threshold since 2014, which is why the search for the new well started when it did and trying to get the land. How much does our water demand increase in the summer? Before 2022, the average day demand was about 1.49 million gallons per day. During 2022, the average day demand increased to 1.6 million gallons per day, in part due to an increase in the unaccountable water that we'll talk about more in a second. From 2014 through 2023, the maximum day demand rate has ranged from 2.65 to 3.06 million gallons per day. The highest maximum day demand during that time period was in 2020, when the unaccountable water was 11%, and Mass DEP's goal is 10% or less. For Kingston, the maximum day demand is about 2 times the average day demand. Will reducing the unaccountable water eliminate the need for a new water supply? The unaccountable water increased in 2022 to 19%, and then in 2023 to 22%. While reducing the unaccountable water would help reduce the maximum day demand, this alone is not enough to decrease it below the Mass DEP required threshold. For example, in 2016, the unaccountable water was only 6%, and the max day demand was 3.02 million gallons per day, which still exceeded the Mass DEP required threshold by about 0.5 million gallons per day. Then in 2023, the unaccountable water was 22%, and the max day demand was only 2.69 million gallons per day. So again, that's in 2016, unaccountable water is 6%, max day 3.02. And then in 2023, unaccountable water went up to 22%, but the max day was less than in 2016 at 2.69. So the max day demand is more impacted by weather than unaccountable water. 2016 was a particularly dry year, more so than we've seen even in the recent years. In 2024, Kingston Water Department was able to reduce the unaccountable water to 17% by repairing leaks and adjusting the flow rate of water quality feeders. These repairs were performed during 2024, so the unaccountable water might be lower after benefiting from a whole year of having those repairs in place during 2025.
So any estimate how much lower, or is that too much?
how much lower than 17%?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
Gotta wait and see them.
Probably not enough to reach the 10 though, right?
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd only say, but we'd have to look at when it was done, when the repairs were done.
We've done a pretty extensive water leak investigation.
Yeah,
Just wondering whether the certain water could be.
yeah, there could still be others. So the way that the water services are in New England, they're mostly in people's yards and buried, so they're not accessible to listen on every single water service. Like, you know, the mainline gates are in the road, and as long as they're not paved over, when they do the listening, they can get right on top of the box, or open up the box and listen inside and hear what's going on. With the services, unless if there's a leak that's close to where the mainline gate valve is, they can hear if there's a service leak. But otherwise, it'll be too far down the road, especially with there being mostly AC pipe and PVC pipe,
So
doesn't
it-
travel.
It takes a ratepayer to call and say there's water that shouldn't be here,
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
otherwise we don't really have a
You
way
know,
of
right.
telling.
short of like digging up
If it's on their
all
side
the
of
services,
the.
right?
Again, you continue, with the testing to find out whether or not we have leaks on the main line, because there may not be a leak today, but there may be a leak tomorrow.
It might not even be leaks. Wouldn't it be related to maybe older meters?
Yeah, it
in
could
people's
be.
homes that are not registering correctly,
Yes, yep.
or all of the radio reads that we still have like 75 radio reads out there that we've been slowly trying to dwindle down to get converted if those aren't being read or estimated accurately.
Yeah, there can be like those kind of paper losses.
Yeah,
Sure.
and everything I've ever heard since I've been a water commissioner is meters never over-report, they under-report.
Right, which would.
So if
contribute.
we have a number of meters under-reporting, this potentially where a lot of your unaccountable water is.
The other thing you have, and it's something that we need to get to recognize happens, is you have a fire department that regularly, trains, and part of the training is to run, their equipment, with water going through, the hoses and off the pipes.
And that's not metered.
That's not needed.
It's
and
not metered, but Chris does a pretty good job of knowing when that's happening and estimating.
But you can't really assess the volume of how much water.
No, but if you figure out what the gallons per minute is and how long it's run, he writes that down, that stuff's on his calendar.
And that's where the 10% numbers come from too, that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all part of it.
Yeah, but is there any possibilities on poaching? No one's gonna really do that. right?
There
Something
is-
Like,
Yeah, I mean, there is that potential of theft where someone might have tapped before the meter to save water, or they're filling the swimming pool off the
it's like
hydrant.
specialized equipment and things like that though, so it's not like it's likely.
Shouldn't be widespread.
Not like the average homeowner can do
Is there
that.
swimming pool people in town?
Yeah. There's some, some communities have had swimming pool people or lawn service people.
Yeah.
Filling up off the hydrants illegally, but.
Whatever
that
that
shouldn't
is,
be
if that's
widespread.
occurring, it's not gonna be,
Yeah.
That's
the
not
volume that's
7%.
gonna make
Yeah.
any
That's not
difference.
7%.
No.
No, and
It's a fraction of a percent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yes,
But it's still like-
continuing to
yes.
do the leak detection is good, and we can do a, kind of like a little pilot analysis of just testing some of, getting on and listening at some of the services, picking a spot where Chris knows we get a lot of leaks in this area, so let's uncover every water service in this area of town and listen on it all.
Let's say some
That's-
slow days.
And that's some effort to that, so, it's easy enough to get a leak detection crew in and they can do the listening pretty quickly. But if they have to stop and find and dig up all the services, slows them right down. But it also takes a lot of effort away from your
Yeah.
guys doing other things, so that's something that needs
So
to
you
be.
gotta decide whether
Yeah.
there's enough lost water found to justify the expense and the effort.
Yeah, exactly.
And I imagine that depends.
So that's definitely something that would have to be looked at and properly budgeted for, and that kind of cost is not in the current fiscal year, like the coming fiscal year budget. That would be something we'd have to work out and say, do we plan for that the next fiscal year?
I guess if we don't see a significant gain unaccountable water, if we have a full year of then we gotta think of a plan B that's gonna be more aggressive, because it's an issue with DEP, it's definitely an issue with us, and it's an issue with this water selectmen about how much water loss we how much unaccountable water. Doesn't necessarily mean there are leaks, because I think the issue of the meters is, I don't know if that's a solvable problem. You're not gonna, certainly not gonna go out and replace all the meters, that wouldn't even come close to.
No,
covering
but
it.
you could probably pull some of the older meters in town, put in new ones and then test those
And
meters
see what the
to make
difference is,
sure
yeah.
that they're reading accurate.
And, you know, they've done repairs to the line bleeders and tried to reduce the
So
amount
much
of water that's coming out of those bleeders. But the only way that we can really solve the bleeder problem is to make sure that each and every one of those, as the department goes forward, is to try and reduce any of those dead ends and create basically a loop. Once you create the loop, then you will eliminate the bleeder. But that's,
Most of it, in fact, I can't remember being involved in a project where there was a bleeder at the end of it. We've done a very good job of.
there's been a few, but there aren't many. And we try to make sure
Require
that
looping.
if it really makes sense, that it gets looped. And now we're even gone to the extent further where we're requiring developers to loop almost within their own development and going far enough out so that the looping connections are far enough away, so.
Yeah, the real loops and not just a
Right.
dead lollipop.
Yeah,
That's what I
right.
do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can remember a number of discussions we've had over the years with contractors about that.
yeah.
You gotta have them separated by enough to make it work.
Right. Yeah, so, but in all of those efforts, still be good to keep, we can talk about that over the summer and the winter for the coming planning budget for the next fiscal year, not the coming one, the one after that. Because we might wanna just have some funds, plan on having those funds available. Because you won't find out about 2025 until after that budget planning process is started, so. But in any case, reducing that unaccountable water will help to reduce your annual average day. And that number has increased over the Water Management Act permit authorized number, but that's not why the moratorium was put in place. So it is a good thing to do, but it's a separate issue from the max day issue.
It's not enough of a savings to just.
No, and it's, yeah, because even before, when you were only 6% unaccountable water, the max day was
Beyond it.
Yep. So the other question, can the wells be pumped at higher flow rates until the new well is online? The construction of the wells was designed based on the safe yield flow rate. The gravel pack material and the screens were sized based on the safe yield. Increasing the pumping rate risks disrupting the gravel pack and the screen by pulling in fines that would plug the gravel packing and the screen. This would decrease the pumping output of the wells and require replacement of the well. Given the high risk of ruining a critical water supply asset, overpumping of the wells should not be done. It may be possible to obtain additional yield from a well field through installation of a satellite well. A hydrogeologist would need to evaluate the potential to withdraw additional water from the well field. This would involve test well work and permitting with through the source approval process to obtain a permit allowing for the increased water withdrawal from the well field, kind of similar to what we're doing with
Right
the
now.
new well.
So it's
right
not
now.
gonna be a time savings or anything like
It's
that.
not a time savings, but it is something to keep
Future
in
stuff.
mind where we don't have as many sites for brand new wells. That would be something that could be explored down the road.
Mhm.
Can we get water from a neighboring water system? The potential to get water from a neighboring water system was explored in 2024. The town has emergency interconnections, non-metered, hard pipe and or hydrant to hydrant with Duxbury, Plymouth, and Pimple. Duxbury stated that they could only supply a small area of Kingston for a short-term emergency up to 1 week during summer and not during the July 4th week. the volume of supply to address Kingston's max day demand deficit would not be possible. Plymouth stated that they may be able to supply water to Kingston from the town's center pressure zone. However, Plymouth was not optimistic about this possibility and would need more investigation, since Plymouth has a supply deficit in their West Plymouth pressure zone and plans to construct a 550 gallon per minute booster pump station to transfer water from the town's center pressure zone to the West Plymouth pressure zone to address that supply deficit. Then, and Pembroke stated that they don't have additional supply to provide Kingston at this time. They also do not meet the Mass DEP requirement to supply the max day demand with the largest source offline. And Pembroke is working on installing a new well themselves.
Are they restricting any sort of new connections at all?
I don't know.
It should also be noted that the way Plymouth treats their municipal water is substantially different than what we do.
Chemical
So
use?
not only
Yeah.
chemicals,
You don't wanna mix
you don't want to really
except
mix,
in a dire emergency.
and then to some degree, that's the same thing with Duxbury. I believe Duxbury's had some PFAS problems with some of their wells, and they're trying to address that. You know, at this point, we do not have any PFAS problems on any of the wells that we have. So we want to make sure that we're careful not to bring in something that could contaminate something that we already have been very stringent on how we handle it.
The last issue was, would reducing our water use get us in compliance with Mass DEP requirement? Reducing water use during the growing season of May through September may get the max day demand below the Mass DEP threshold of 2.484 million gallons per day. The max day demand is significantly impacted by the amount of outdoor water use. Dry periods during May through September period result in increased demand. The restrictions placed to date on outdoor water use have not resulted in a significant decrease in the max day demand. Beyond even water use restrictions have been implemented each summer for the past several years. A complete ban on all non-essential outdoor water use may reduce the max day demand. However, compliance would be difficult to achieve. So an approximate reduction in the demand could not be estimated at this.
Our 90-day forecast is for above normal precipitation, so we can hope and pray for that.
Yeah, so that's what, in summary, we talked about those, not in that direct order, but we talked about those issues as part of the committee meeting held last week. And yeah, I'll leave that with you. I know you guys get some of those questions quite frequently, so you have that in your pocket. You'll be able to pull that list right out and say, oh no.
It is useful having a meteorologist on board.
Well, you can Google it too if you wanted to.
You know, the other thing we probably should do is make sure that, you know, these discussion items be forwarded, that, so that Keith has it, and so each of these select people
Would you like
have
me to
it.
put it on the website?
Huh?
Would you like me to put it on the website?
Why don't you put it on the website, so that
Yeah.
each and every person has it, but
Any citizen could
Yeah.
see what we're doing,
but also.
or why we're not doing what they want us to do.
Well, you know, besides putting it on the website, they actually send hard copies to those that may want to have it readily at hand at any time.
Yeah,
So that would be Val and county administrator and.
Maybe we should put on the future agenda item to revisit the watering ban, and then maybe
It's on this agenda.
it's on this agenda already.
Yes, it's that time of year.
Yep.
Okay, good. So I think we'd be remiss not to have a full ban out there with everything that's going on right now. Again, I've never been a long guy, so it's not sacred ground for me, but
Historically, we've put in a water restriction that odd and even, that takes effect from May through September.
There's, if you wait
Yeah.
until we get to it,
Okay,
there's a recommendation from.
okay. Okay, I know, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So my next item is the consumer confidence report. Draft was handed out. last meeting.
I move that we accept the consumer confidence report for 2024
Second.
as presented last week.
Move second, so voted.
Second,
I see that. I could even understand this.
Yeah.
Always questionable when an engineer,
Yeah, right, yeah, you never know.
different side of the
Yeah.
day. Okay,
Next.
put on the
Yeah.
superintendent, so who's?
Okay, do you want me to give you Chris's update?
Yeah, why don't you?
So shut up program update is going well, everything's coming in, very pleased with that. I told you last week, we were at like or 2 weeks ago, we were at like a 50% collection rate. It's jumped up to about 71. So, and that includes a new group that just went out today, so obviously from the field on that.
That's included in that, so,
Right,
so there's only 29% and many of them were from today.
correct.
Okay, that's very good.
So I'm happy with that. Chris did the DEP sanitary survey last week. They didn't ding us on anything. There were some recommendations that were made. And he went and made sure that the recommendations that he took in, he implemented immediately before he went on vacation. So that should be all good. And do they send like a full report?
Yes.
Yeah. So that went well. No violations. Quarterly rates for the June bills will be done next week, beginning on the 30th. So I feel like we just got done with the bill cycle and we go right back to nothing. You know,
That's good you're doing the past bills.
yeah.
Yeah.
Town meeting is this Saturday at KIS beginning at 9 a.m. And all town employees who live in Kingston are encouraged to attend. I was asked to share that. Kristen already talked about the site visit with Kleinfelder. Chris was out there with them, walking the property on April 9th. So that was done. And let's talk about the water restriction in short order. There's a thing in your packet from Mass DEP. It's probably, I think I might have stuck it at the end.
Yep, that's it.
So we are in the southeast region, which is in a level 1 mild drought. For all public water systems, they're recommending all non-essential outdoor water use is restricted to 1 day a week before 9 and after 5. So that is definitely different than what we've had in the past. We don't have any signage out back to reflect that. So if we want to do that, we have to order some. But that's what they're recommending now.
We have a complete ban signage?
No,
No,
I also have this.
Oh, 1 day,
they're talking about 1 day.
1 day a week.
Yeah.
1 day for everybody, or 1 day for odd, 1 day for?
1 day per week for everybody.
It doesn't make sense.
It says it's right there.
But
Hold
it
on,
just doesn't
yeah.
make sense.
And I think we need to look at what we've done in the past, which is, on an even, multiple days during the week, and maybe what we should be looking at is going 1 day for odd, 1 day for even. It
Yeah.
doesn't go all the way to
Yeah.
what DEP wants,
You don't
but
choose
it's
the
something
day.
that, people can understand, and we're not putting an overburden on.
Yeah, that's the
They're
part
not
that
looking
troubles me.
For everyone to be on 1 day, they're looking for, you can stagger it up and, you can have multiple zones or whatever, and that zone gets
Yeah.
Monday, that one Tuesday, and you make
So
it
we
as
could do-
complicated as you want, but
We could do odd 1 day, even another day,
Yeah.
and that would essentially
break it up a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
meet their needs. I think that's what we should do.
I think we just need to figure out, what day of the week we want that to happen.
Is there certain lower days, weekends, are they
You
higher?
know, obviously, we'd be better off doing that, Monday to Friday than Saturday to
Yeah.
Sunday, because Saturday and Sunday's would be the heaviest days anyway.
Yeah,
But, if we're doing it, I wouldn't do Monday, Tuesday, I might do
Wednesday,
or
Tuesday,
Tuesday, Thursday, so that,
there's a
At
chance to recover.
maybe Tuesday, Thursday is a better way of doing it than, Monday, Wednesday, Wednesday, Friday, because it does, at least if we're pumped heavy over the weekend, which may be the case because, not everybody's gonna
There's a
obey,
chance
but
of Tuesday, yeah.
yeah,
So
let
maybe
it
should we-
recover on Monday and then go Tuesday, let it recover on Wednesday and then.
Yeah.
But if you go Tuesday, Thursday, that'll be the same, whether we ought to read it'll be the same number.
True, but it'll be half the time,
Oh,
odd
I see,
even,
yeah.
odd on Tuesday, even on Thursday, or whatever we decide to do, but that seems,
Yeah.
and it's fairly simple and straightforward. Rather than.
Yeah, I agree.
Rather than saying anybody
You
not.
can't make it complicated
No.
because that's an excuse not to do it.
Gotta go by like voting restrictions.
Oops, I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
complicated.
everybody,
Yeah, let them
north
know
of the
is what
Jones
it is.
River does it one day and south,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, not even
odd even numbers make sense. and,
Yeah.
Unless there is an objection, I would recommend that we make a motion that we do odd on Tuesdays and even on Thursdays.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I'll move that motion.
Will you, move
You get enough on
second,
that?
move
I'm
second,
just
so
trying,
voted.
I'm just trying to think what we have out there. It's fine.
Well, you're gonna have, Chris is gonna have to have
We
all
are
the
even
signs.
already
Um,
signs.
Who
We
made
can add
that
on to it.
motion?
I made the motion, Bob.
I seconded it. and then-
So odd houses on Tuesday, even houses on Thursday.
Yeah. Before 9 and after 5.
Right.
Make sure the signs are large so it's clear and,
And that's to begin May first,
Fewer words.
right?
yes.
All the other things are some engagement requests that came in.
Yeah, I looked at they all were standard leak detection
Yeah,
fix.
and all of them did reach out to me within the time frame. It's just with
Yeah.
the timing of our meetings.
Could I move all three together? Do you
I
have any
would,
issues?
I would not, just so that
Move
it's,
Okay,
Each one
Easier,
individually.
yeah. so let's
Yeah.
start with Evergreen Street, because I have that. So Evergreen Street Cemetery had a previously undetected leak. They got the bill, they paid it, and then realized, oh, that's a lot higher than normal, so then they found the leak and. they
I move that we charge Evergreen Cemetery the lowest rate.
second.
Lowest rate for total, right?
Yeah.
For total gallons.
Move second, so voted.
I move that we charge 23 Lake Street the lowest amount of money for
Okay,
total water.
lowest rate,
Yeah.
okay.
yes.
That was
Second.
also another plumbing issue.
Yeah,
That
we said
was
real-
less.
real.
Move second, so voted to issue the abatement for 23 Lake Street.
And I move the same for 36 Cole Street A.
Second.
Okay, so this is the only one I wanted to bring to your attention, because this may be coming back before us. She's asking for relief on the March bill, but the repair wasn't made until halfway through this quarter, so she's gonna have a high bill in June as well, just so you know.
Okay,
That's fine.
so just make a note, whatever, so that we can refer back.
Alright,
Move second, so voted to reduce the water bill for 36 Day Cold Street to the lowest rate. One other item that was added, discussion on the DPW position for
The proposal,
we've never taken a vote specifically on whether we think we should approve it, or speak against it. We need to make my own opinion is, I think we need to take a vote opposed to the creation of, the public works department. And I don't believe there's a need for it.
I think it's premature to be looking at it right now. It seems like it's being forced, it's being rushed. And I would move that we vote not to support the proposal to establish a Department of Public Works at this time.
Yeah, I'm very amenable to efficiencies in the future and discussions, but again, I agree, it seems like it's being rushed through without the thought necessary to really do this in the right way. So I would also.
I also have some concerns with the structure that they're proposing.
You know, there's a number of things that can be discussed and should be brought up at town meeting about the way it's being proposed, and the way it's being structured, and the lack of control of the superintendent for both the water department as well as the sewer department, and that does not create an efficiency in the way the departments operate.
And it makes it very hard for us to do our job if we have no control of the superintendent and the employees. So I got a real issue with that.
So did you make a motion?
I made the motion.
I'll second that.
Move second, so voted.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
So
unanimous
the
vote.
vote was not to support the DPW. at
Right,
this
3-0.
time. Okay, deletion.
The one other thing that we have not talked about, and Kristen did an excellent job of giving us the information that we can forward to everybody in town about the moratorium, is we did receive written recommendations from town council that the moratorium not be lifted at this time.
And you're gonna provide us with the copy of it?
Yep.
That's privileged information from town council to the water department. It needs to stay within the privilege threshold.
I have one other thing extra for Don that I heard today. It's important to know that we need to put a land swap deal at the mall is going to be on the article this Saturday.
I have heard, but I haven't heard anything formal about that, and
Gas
supposedly,
station.
and I think we need to go on record right up front that any gas station put in close to where the existing
186. Yeah.
where
Yeah.
the existing fire department is would be upgradient of 186 and Grassy Hole, and would definitely be in a dangerous location, and should not, gas station should not be approved with underground gas tanks.
And we've had good history. We don't have one for Street Well anymore, specifically for that
The
reason.
concern that someone, the town planner said it was not an issue with the well, and that's false
But,
information. So I don't wanna-
town planner decided that,
Yeah,
to my knowledge, and I'm surprised that she didn't reach out and find out how we felt about it, because it is upgradient
Yeah.
of where those two wells are, and it does have a potential major negative impact, those two wells.
Two of our three biggest wells.
yeah, so we just speak up during town meeting, and that's our only real option right now. Because I'm concerned that some land swap deal for some reason that then we have to back out on because it's not a proper use of the land for water. The wells they are, puts us in jeopardy for some sort of breach of
It's
contract.
gotta be
or
a
something.
zone too.
That's right here.
Where is it?
Be right.
With the
Right here.
wetlands,
Right
yeah,
there.
with the
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
ones, yeah.
It's a zone too.
And you gotta look at the way that the water is flowing through town.
It just, yeah. All right, we'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
And move to adjourn?
Second,
Moved second, so voted to adjourn the meeting at 4:50.